Moms, are you juggling lots of children and work and trying to figure out how to balance it all? I want to help you today. Welcome back to the Help for Leaders podcast. I'm Stacey Harris. Before we dive into today's episode, click here to subscribe, hit that thumbs up, ring that bell, share this video, all the good things. So today I've got Dawn Delaney joining me again on the podcast. I'm so excited for today's episode. Dawn is a licensed professional counselor. She's also the executive director for the Center for Relational Care here in Austin, Texas. She's also a dear friend and has a lot of wisdom. So I have 3 grown children, but I remember 30 years ago, well, my oldest will be 27 next month, but I remember the juggle of working, raising a family. I had the wonderful privilege and benefit of being able to work flex time in my small town when my kids were young. And I had great sleepers. My babies slept a lot. And so they would sleep under my desk. They would sleep at home, all the things. My husband had a very flexible work schedule. So we did a lot of juggling back and forth over the years when they were very young, before they were school age. And I have many clients that are doing that very thing because of the pandemic and because of this work-life balance that we're all in. And I really wanted to talk about that as a mom. I know many of my viewers and my listeners are working moms. And so I want to just share some of the wisdom that I've learned over the last 27 years. And then also have Dawn share some of her research, some of the things that she has been reading about, learning, even working with her clients as well. So first of all, I mentioned my 3 children, or I mentioned kids. I have 3 grown children, but it was a balance. It always, I think, as a mom, as a working mom, you never turn off being a mom. It's who we are. It's our first priority, our main priority. And we balance many things, or we try to. I always hated that work-life balance. I always felt like, I had lots of plates spinning and I tried to keep them from
It's an illusion.
It's an illusion.
Yeah.
It's absolutely an illusion. But there are some things that I have learned over the years. There's some wisdom that we want to share even today. I know yesterday I was on a Zoom call with a team in the Midwest, and one woman said, "I'm not turning my camera on. I will rarely unmute. My 4-year-old's daycare canceled today." And I think that's the norm for so many people right now. Schools open one day, close the next. Still, even almost 2 years into the pandemic. And so it is a balancing act that we are working through how to do it all. And so that's what I want to talk about today. So
great.
You shared a study with me recently. And so I'd love for you to elaborate more on that study, some of the findings.
Yeah. So this study was actually written before the pandemic. It was written in 2017, and it was it looks like a collaboration between Duke and UNC. So pretty cool to see what they're working on. But they were talking about the importance of co-regulation. And when I shared that with you, you were like, "Oh, you're teaching me a new term right
Yes,
now."
because I talk a lot about self-regulation. You've heard me on previous episodes when I talk about EQ, self-awareness, self-regulation. I was like, okay, let's talk more about co-regulation.
Yeah, so actually, a lot of people would say that self-regulation is not a thing, that it's actually...
She's debunking all my stuff.
Yes, so sorry about
That's
that.
okay.
This study actually would say that self-regulation builds. It's a skill that's developed over the lifespan, but a lot of professionals would say that self-regulation is actually internalized co-regulation. So we have to have co-regulation in order to learn how to self-regulate. And if you think about it, it makes sense. I was thinking about just, for the sake of illustration, when a baby cries, what's the first thing? What's our first instinct?
Yeah, we got to pick that thing up,
Pick
figure
the
it out.
Yeah,
What is happening?
And why is that? It's because we need that nervous system to nervous system co-regulation. We learn from being in the presence of a regulated other caregiver how to calm our own nervous system. We don't learn that on our own.
Yeah, that's so true.
And we need it throughout our lifespan. It just looks different at different times. So what it looks like when you're an infant is really different than when you're a 22-year-old
Right.
away at school or in your first job, but we still need that presence of a grounded other and that supportive space to help our nervous system learn how to calm.
That's so good. Man, I needed this 27 years ago. This could have been really helpful information. I mean, yes, we know that intuitively, but I think we think of it when the children are little. I mean, because I know, like yesterday on the call, those were preschoolers, but I'm also very aware that we've got middle school and high schoolers, even college students that are some in person, some classes are online, some doing hybrid.
Everything is a hybrid.
Exactly.
These days. Yeah.
And so emotions are raw. Emotions, people's margins are thin. We're exhausted.
Yeah.
All of us are exhausted. And so I can see even different behaviors necessary for infants, young children, with adolescents,
from young adults. Yeah, absolutely. But the things that stay consistent throughout the lifespan are providing a supportive, nurturing environment and then providing some consistency. And so when I was thinking about how our nervous systems have been impacted by COVID, and specifically our kids, I was thinking about we have taken away the predictability, the consistency of an environment. You know, kids were used to going to school or whatever their school environment was going to look like, that being predictable and consistent. And then we've taken away opportunities for a lot of co-regulation with other adults other than parents. So hopefully there's still some opportunities for co-regulation in the home. But if you think about it, teachers, coaches, youth group leaders, even just other adults in kids' worlds have been able to step into that role a lot more pre-COVID.
Yeah, I could see like guidance counselors at school, band directors,
absolutely,
dance instructors, all the things that were adults that were helping. Yeah, wow, all taken away in this season.
Yes.
So what can parents do?
Yeah, right.
Where's the hope?
Where's the hope? Yeah. So I think the first thing is that I think recognizing the amount of stress that we're under as adults is the first thing we can do. It's kind of that analogy of putting your own mask on first. That, you know, a key part of co-regulation is being a regulated presence yourself. And so I think anytime that parents can recognize and really care for their own stress, maybe they're finding friends to talk to, they're looking at how can I practice self-care? Maybe I need to exercise. Maybe I need to be intentional about connecting with my spouse, with a friend, with a small group. Maybe I need to be intentional about meditating or spending time in prayer, whatever it is that we do to regulate our own emotions and acknowledge our own emotions. That's the first thing we can do to help our kids.
So true. I was thinking when you were saying that, when mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy.
Yes.
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 So it's
And
like
it's true.
when mama's stressed, everyone is stressed.
Yeah. And kids pick up on tension and stress in the environment. They're so much more sensitive to it than we are as adults.
Yeah. So self-awareness.
Yeah.
Understanding what I'm feeling, why I'm feeling. We talked about that on a previous episode. Putting your hand on your heart. Like, what do I need in this moment?
Yes.
So go back and listen to that one with Dawn if you haven't listened to that.
So that's the first thing.
Okay.
And then beyond that, the way that we process and make sense of and heal from stressful experiences and emotions is to be able to tell our story and to be witnessed and to have someone, to feel like someone truly understands what we're going through. So you guys have probably heard this phrase or this sentence a lot throughout the COVID times of make something make sense or make it make sense, right? I think we're all crying for that. And that's because when we can make sense of an experience, we know how to process it. Our body knows how to integrate it. Okay. And so as adults, we can help our kids make sense of what's happening in their world, in our homes, in our families. And the way that we do that is by asking really open-ended questions and staying really curious, really accepting, and really loving. So Dan Siegel is an interpersonal neurobiologist who works with kids and parents across the lifespan, and he has this really helpful acronym.
Okay.
So the acronym is COAL, and it's
Cool.
COAL.
Okay.
It stands for curiosity, openness, acceptance, and love.
Curiosity, openness, acceptance, and love. That's so good.
So when we can provide those conditions for our kids, when we can say, hey, I noticed that you seemed kind of upset today. Do you want to talk about that? And we can do it with complete openness. There's no agenda. There's no criticism. There's no judgment in what we're saying. They may not respond. They may not choose to share.
Yeah.
But you're creating the environment. You're creating the space where it would feel safe. It would be safe for them to share if they wanted to.
That's so good. And I don't think it's easy. I'm just thinking about my own kids. I mean, especially if we have patterns and we're busy and we're going through and juggling all the things.
Yeah.
That takes time.
It takes time.
And you're going to have to sit and put the phone down and turn off all the things and really listen.
Really listen. Yeah.
Wow.
Practice some of those emotional attunement skills we talked about.
Yes. So good.
But, there are some natural times in the day that these conversations tend to come out more. So bedtime is a really...
When you're exhausted, Mom, it's a really great time.
Yes.
I remember those times. I'm like, really? We're going to do all of this now?
You want to share. But if you have an awareness of, actually, that time's really important for connection and for my child's development, it doesn't make you any less exhausted at that time, but maybe there's ways to try to pause or just kind of gear yourself up for being present in that time.
Yeah, I remember those days. I mean, even last night I was texting one of my children after my bedtime. I'm like, I'm really tired. Can we pause this tomorrow? Yeah. But you're right. I mean, especially in those developmental stages and ages.
Yeah.
Even when you're exhausted, even when you're tired, even when you have a long list of things to do, to be able to be present with this young person that's developing and needing so much, man, it's worth it. It's so worth it. So, yeah. So what else can we do?
So, I mean, I think those really are the most helpful things. And continuing to ask questions. So, I had a client recently, this was an adult, but it happens with kids too, who all she needed was to be able to tell a story. She was having trouble making sense of her experience, and she just needed a contained space to tell the story. And so every once in a while, I would offer a reflection or ask her where she felt something in her body. But beyond that, I was really just asking, so what happened next? And after that, what happened next? And it was just facilitating her making those connections and being able to put the whole story together in a sequence that her nervous system was then able to make sense of it.
So good.
And integrate it. So we can just ask, so what happened next?
Yeah, that's easy.
Yeah.
And not trying to fix it.
No.
Not trying to make sense of it for them, but just letting them talk and you being a safe place to listen. So good.
Yeah.
So remind me of Cole again. So curiosity, openness, what was acceptance, and love. Yeah.
It's that unconditional, positive regard for someone that no matter what you share, I'm going to accept you. I'm going to be a safe space and not see you any differently.
Yeah. So good. I love that. Thank you, Dawn, for sharing. That's so good. Yeah. So I can see where, we take all of our relationships, all of that knowledge, even to work with us, even when our children are home. Maybe it's in the next room because we're working from home and they're having a bad day, and that affects us. That affects us at work. All of these relationships, all of this, conversation, whether it's stressful or going really well, we bring that with us into every aspect of our lives.
How can we not?
Yeah. And so as a mom, we can't turn it off. I mean, they're always there. They're always in the back of our minds, even when they're 1,000 miles away or just down the street or in the next room. I mean, they're always present. And so I love this conversation about navigating even COVID during stressful times of, oh my gosh, how can we parent well, be present, listen, juggle all of the things that the responsibilities, we have many responsibilities, and raise healthy, emotionally attuned
children,
young adults, children, so that so that hopefully when they're in our shoes raising their children, that we've given them more skills, more tools to be able to share that knowledge with others, not just their children, but with friends, colleagues at work. So so I know you shared some resources with me. I think that I'd love to share those with our listeners too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was talking about Dr. Dan Siegel earlier. So this is his book, The Whole Brain Child, that is geared more towards littles. And I just brought it because it's small. It was easy to carry with me. But he also has a book for adolescents called Brainstorm. He has a book called Parenting from the Inside Out. So if you realize, oh gosh, this is actually like bringing up a lot in me, I'm feeling pretty triggered as I'm trying to attempt to engage with my kids, that book might be helpful. It just gives you some opportunities to reflect on your own story, your own growing up experience, what you received or didn't receive, and where there might be some opportunities for healing so that you can engage with your kids in a more regulated way.
That's great. Thanks for sharing this. And we'll link all of those below in the video so that you have access to all those resources. Anything else you'd love to share about resources or just things that parents can be doing?
Yeah, I just want to tell parents you're doing a great job. Yeah. This is I can't imagine a harder season to be a parent. I think every season has its challenges, but this is a really hard season for all of us. I know we're going to talk in the next episode about work. It's a hard season to be an employee or be an employer. It's a really hard season to be a parent. And so to be doing all of that is so challenging. And I just want to encourage you guys to hang in there. You're doing a great job. Just want to say we see you.
Yes.
We see how hard this is. And there's hope. Actually, maybe one really, really helpful thing to share is that parents, when I'm working with parents in my office, they will tend to start going, oh my gosh, I could never, like I'm going to mess my kids up because I could never do all of these things. And I think that's such a real and normal thing.
That was real 20 years ago. Right? I thought that too.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my goodness.
So the hope and the encouragement that I love to offer parents is that actually what research is showing is you only have to get it right. And what I mean by that is doing it right, whatever that means, the first time around 30% of the time.
Oh, come on. That is good news.
Isn't that relieving?
That is good news.
30% of the time. And the reason for that is because actually what's even more powerful than doing it right the first time, all of the time, is being able to come back and model healthy repair when we don't get it right. And so take the pressure off to get it right all the time and do the best you can, and know that when you're showing your kids that you're really interested and you're really wanting to be connected to them, that in and of itself is offering worlds of love, and it's really creating an environment that is going to be hope-filled and positive for your kids.
So that's powerful and very much hope-filled.
Yes.
So 30% of the time.
30% of the time.
That's
so take a deep breath.
Such good news. Such good news. I've often thought, should we be saving for, therapy for later in life? Because, oh my gosh, what we've learned today, we didn't know previously. And hindsight's always 20/20, and we would always do things differently. Yeah. And I think that's what grandkids are for too. So I'm really excited about that next stage of life. I was like, I've learned a lot of things, and I'm going to do it so well this next time around. Yeah. So anyway, thank you, Dawn, for joining me on this episode of the Help for Leaders podcast. Hopefully you've taken something away. I know I've got a lot of listeners that are parents. And so these are challenging times, just as Dawn said, and you're doing a great job. Yeah. Hang in there. Join us next week, because we are going to continue this conversation. We're going to take it to work and really helping normalize mental health in the workplace. If you enjoyed this episode and would like more information on emotional intelligence, behavioral styles, or communication, I'd love for you to click here to watch more episodes. And we'd also love for you to click here to subscribe so you're notified each week when we post more content.